Hi everybody. The graphic novel that I chose to read is Wool, a graphic novel omnibus. Its creative team is kind of long. The script is by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti. The art is by Jimmy Bronxton. The letters are by Bill Tortellini. The cover is by Darwin Cook. The editor is Matt Hoffman. The omnibus design is Darren Bennett. The senior production manager is Jill Taplin, and the senior collection editor is Alex Carr. The publisher of this comic is Jet City Comics, produced in association with Cryptozoic Entertainment. The length of the comic is 133 pages with a few extra that were just artistic designs and stuff like that. Is the graphic novel a traditional graphic novel or is it a compilation? It's a compilation of comics 1 through 6. The acts occur, Act 1 ends on page 24, Act 2 begins on page 28, Act 2 ends on page 47, Act 3 starts on page 50, Act 3 ends on page 63, Act 4 starts on page 72, and it ends on page 91. Act 5 starts on page 94 and ends on page 111. Act 6 starts on page 115 and ends at page 133. Whose story is it? It's Juliet Nichols, what is the goal? Her goal is to save humanity and end the cleaning. Basically, a cleaning is when they send people out onto the planet and they basically murder them through a type of suit that is not effective. They're using old parts and things like that that don't keep the humans alive. Does the conflict in Act 2 support the goal? Yes, the conflict in Act 2 definitely supports the goal because the first sheriff goes out to save his wife Allison and he doesn't come back. He ends up dying. Does the story have a solid story arc? Does it have a clear beginning, middle, and an end? And is the resolution satisfactory? The beginning starts with Allison going outside to prove that the cleansing is a sham. When she discovers through the wire on her husband's computer that IT's actually done some pretty bad things and they've made the suits not wearable for the people, she decides to take the actions upon herself and she decides to go out to the cleansing. She believes that the world is probably clear and the images that she's seeing are false because they don't want people to leave the silo. 3 years later, though, is in the second act, is when her husband he thinks she's telling the truth, and he decides that he's going to put a suit on and he's going to go out and find his wife. And when he steps outside, he sees images of the earth, and these images are of beautiful flowers, of rolling green hills, farmlands, things like that. But as he continues to climb, he starts to fall. You can see he's tired, and you're like, uh-oh, something's up. And then the mayor ends up dying in Act 2, which brings up Act 3, where the interim mayor, who used to be the head of IT, makes drastic changes and he cleans house. By cleaning house, he starts to take actions and he's trying to get Jules killed because he doesn't like the way she leads because he doesn't have her following him. And in the end, the interim mayor actually ends up becoming a janitor. So it's kind of like a new way to clean versus how they use cleaning to kill people. Now they're showing him becoming a janitor. Do any of the characters have a solid character arc? Is there change in them? I'm going to go ahead and say Jules. I say Jules because she's the one you sort of follow after the sheriff dies. She's the reason why they even go down to IT. Then they're trying to get through to mechanical because that's where she is. Apparently, for her backstory, she helped the sheriff with some previous investigations, and he thinks she would be a really good deputy. Well, instead of becoming deputy, the population votes her to become the sheriff, and they just keep the deputy who was deputy before as the deputy. So basically, Jules goes from working down into mechanical to becoming a sheriff. And once she becomes sheriff, she has a new set of responsibilities that's placed upon her shoulders. And she knows she has to make these choices for the good of everybody. It can't just be for the good of herself. And you sense a lot of growth in her from this and each obstacle that she does conquer. Even when she's sent out to be cleaned, she doesn't give up. She doesn't give in to defeat or any of that. She's so determined to survive, even though her cleansing suit is ineffective and it's not working for her. She refuses to give up. And in the end, she is rewarded for that. I won't say how she got rewarded, but she is. She's definitely rewarded for that. And she's the one who makes the decision on what happens to the interim mayor. And she saves her friends from basically dying because the interim mayor is out to destroy everybody. He only cares about himself. Does the story have effective transitions? Do the readers know where and when they are? Yes, the comic has very effective transitions, and they are very easy to be spotted by a reader. For instance, the story easily transitions from one mayor to the next, and then after that, or after the first mayor falls, they easily transition it from her path onto his path on how they're going to lead people. The first mayor was a very kind woman. She, cared about her people, and she wanted good for the silo. She wanted her silo to keep thriving. Whereas the interim mayor, he's all about cleaning. He doesn't care who gets cleaned. He doesn't care what happens to them. He just wants to continue the mission that he believes is the path that humanity should take. It also transitions when they transition from one sheriff to the next, because they show growth in that character. The first sheriff was very depressed because he missed his wife, whereas Jules was extremely strong and she was determined to save everybody. Does the story make effective use of directional flow? Does the movement of the art combined with layout and text on the page pull the reader through? Yes, the story makes great use of directional flow, but there were a few pages where I was confused on which direction to read in. It was just like, here's a bubble, 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 and it wasn't broken down into like boxes or anything like that. And for somebody who's kind of new to reading comics, it was really confusing. I believe the art and the layout are a huge help because they help guide you along as you're reading. Do I recommend this comic to my classmates? Why or why not? Yeah, why wouldn't I? This is a comic that I picked. Of course I would. It's a very interesting take on where humans could end up under certain types of leadership, and I think in this time period that is something that we should look into. And would I offer this comic to my friends? I think y'all are my friends. We've known each other for 2 years. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I would recommend this to my friends and family. I think that they would like it, but the only problem is it's a graphic novel, and my family's not, and friends aren't really into graphic novels. So it would have to be like a lot of like persuading and things like that to get them to want to read it. But I think the message is very clear, and I think it's something that honestly we should be reading regardless of school or anything like that, because it's very interesting. So yeah, I would. Any observations you have regarding anything else we may have discussed in this class? Hello, the ending to the John Almond, The Amazing Man book. Come on, guys. Why didn't he use his green power stuff to revive her? Why didn't he transfer it? She transferred it to him. Why can't he transfer it back to her? She's just like a tree. Oh, so sad. Anyway, fun fact. My fun fact is how many comics are published. If you guess 32,000, I guess you're correct because that's what the internet says. But who knows? Thank you for listening.